At first glance, this 1901 portrait of two sisters looked completely ordinary until someone noticed what one of them was secretly hiding. Dr. Michael Hayes had studied thousands of old photographs during his 20 years as a Civil War historian. But something about this image stopped him immediately. It was a hot Tuesday afternoon in August 2018 when he discovered the photograph at a Charleston estate sale. The picture showed two young women in their 20s sitting side by side inside an elegant parlor. Their Victorian dresses looked perfect, and their expressions appeared calm and controlled. On the back of the photograph, a handwritten note simply read, "Catherine and Elellanena, March 1901. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe." Michael almost ignored it. It seemed like just another old portrait that would eventually disappear into some collector's storage box. But there was something unusual in the older sister's eyes. He assumed she was Catherine. Her stare carried something difficult to explain. It was not exactly fear, but something darker, something that immediately triggered his instincts as a historian. He bought the photograph for $12, along with a box of random papers, and carried everything back to his office at the College of Charleston. Under the soft afternoon sunlight coming through the window, he studied the image more carefully. The photograph had clearly been taken by a professional studio, probably one of Charleston's better photographers. Both women wore their hair in the popular Gibson girl style of the period. Their posture was stiff, which was normal because cameras back then required people to sit still for several seconds. The painted studio background showed a Charleston garden scene with vines and iron gates. The furniture looked expensive, a velvet settee with carved mahogany legs. These women were clearly not poor. Their clothing was elegant and carefully tailored. Catherine wore a dark burgundy wool dress with black jet buttons. Elellanena wore a lighter grey silk dress with lace around the collar and sleeves. Michael prepared his digital scanner and set it to the highest resolution possible. Over the years, he had learned that modern technology often revealed details invisible to the naked eye. Tiny engravings on jewelry, hidden tears in clothing, or objects blurred into shadows could suddenly appear. The scanner could capture details even the original photographer might never have noticed. As the machine hummed quietly, Michael casually wondered about the lives of these two sisters living in Charleston during the difficult years after the Civil War. He had no idea he was about to uncover a secret hidden for 117 years. A secret that would consume the next 6 months of his life and finally reveal the truth about two women who had been silenced for more than a century. The high-resolution image loaded onto his monitor, and Michael began his careful examination. First, he zoomed in on their faces. Catherine, the older sister on the left, had sharp cheekbones and dark eyes that seemed to stare directly through the camera. There was intensity in her expression, but also tension. Elellanena looked softer, gentler, with a faint smile that almost appeared genuine. Yet even she seemed uneasy. Michael could see strain around her eyes and stiffness in her jaw. He moved lower, examining the dresses, the lace details, the delicate buttons, and the embroidery. Then he reached Catherine's hands folded neatly in her lap beneath the heavy folds of her dark dress. Michael suddenly froze. His breath caught in his throat as he leaned closer to the screen. He zoomed in further and adjusted the brightness and contrast. His heart started pounding. Hidden in the shadows beneath Catherine's hand was the unmistakable outline of a small pistol. The grip looked ornate, possibly ivory or pearl, reflecting a faint glimmer of studio light. The barrel was short and compact. Michael immediately recognized it as a small Derringer pistol, the type women sometimes carried for personal protection during that era. "Dear God," he whispered quietly. He leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. Women carrying small firearms for safety was not unheard of in the early 1900s. But bringing one to a professional portrait session and secretly holding it during a long photographic exposure was something completely different. That was deliberate. That meant fear. That meant she believed danger could appear at any moment. Michael zoomed out and stared at the entire image again. Now he noticed details he had missed before. Catherine's left hand gripped the armrest tightly, her knuckles pale from pressure. Elellanena sat unusually close to her sister. Both women looked terrified beneath their forced calm expressions. Michael looked once more into Catherine's eyes. And finally, the strange feeling he had sensed earlier became clear. It was terror. He spent the rest of the evening staring at the photograph. He printed several versions, including one with the hidden pistol circled in red. He had seen violent historical photographs before, including Civil War casualties and crime scene images. But this felt different. This was not violence after the fact. This was fear before something terrible happened. That night he barely slept. When he finally drifted off around 3 in the morning, he dreamed of a woman drowning in dark water while holding a tiny pistol above the surface. The next morning he arrived early at the South Carolina Historical Society carrying copies of the image. Margaret Wilson, the chief archivist and his longtime colleague, looked up from her desk. "You look exhausted," she said. "I think I found something terrible," Michael replied. He spread the photographs across her desk and pointed to the hidden weapon. Margaret leaned forward and studied the image carefully. Her face slowly changed from curiosity to concern. "That's definitely a Remington double Derringer," she said quietly. "Women sometimes carried them for protection. But why would she bring it to a photography studio?" "Unless she was afraid to be without it," Michael answered. Margaret nodded slowly. "Unless she believed she needed protection everywhere she went." They began searching Charleston photography records from 1901. After several hours of searching dusty ledgers, Margaret finally found an entry from March 14, 1901. Catherine and Elellanena Brennan. She. Read aloud. Formal portrait. Address. 67 Church Street. Payment made by Mr. Thomas Brennan. The husband paid for the portrait, Michael said. Margaret frowned. Which means he wanted this photograph taken. They moved to census records and learned that Catherine Brennan, age 26, was married to Thomas Brennan, a wealthy shipping merchant 15 years older than her. Elellanena, age 23, lived with them as Catherine's unmarried sister. The more records they uncovered, the darker the story became. A police report from February 1901 described a violent disturbance at the Brennan home. A neighbor had reported screams, broken glass, and shouting. Officers responded, but Thomas Brennan calmly claimed his wife had fallen down the stairs. Catherine and Elellanena both confirmed the story. No arrest was made. "She didn't fall," Michael said quietly. "Of course she didn't," Margaret replied angrily. "And 1 month later she's posing with a hidden gun." Later that evening Michael searched Charleston death records. His hands shook when he found Catherine Brennan's entry. Date of death, June 17, 1901. Cause of death, accidental drowning. Location, Charleston Harbor. 3 months after the photograph, there was almost no investigation attached to the case. No detailed report, no autopsy. Elellena's name vanished completely after that. No marriage record, no death certificate, no future census listing. It was as though she had disappeared from history itself. At the courthouse basement archives, Michael discovered another disturbing document. Weeks after Catherine's death, Thomas Brennan had petitioned the court to declare Elellanena legally missing and presumed dead so he could claim control of all property and belongings. "He took everything," Michael whispered. Weeks later, Michael uncovered a breakthrough while searching old newspapers. Hidden inside the classified section was a missing person advertisement placed by a woman named Abigail Porter searching desperately for Elellanena Fletcher. With help from genealogical records, Michael eventually tracked down Abigail Porter's great-great-granddaughter, Linda Chen, who still lived in Charleston. When they met, Linda carried a small wooden box filled with family papers and letters, carefully preserved for generations. Inside was a letter dated March 10, 1901, written by Catherine herself. The letter revealed everything. Catherine described Thomas Brennan's growing violence. She wrote that both sisters planned to escape Charleston while Thomas traveled for business. She also wrote that Thomas insisted they pose for a portrait together. Then came the line that made Michael's chest tighten. "I will bring protection with me," Catherine wrote. "I have purchased a small pistol." She knew her life was in danger. Michael later uncovered evidence that Thomas Brennan had completely invented his wealthy background. His shipping empire was built on fraud and stolen money. Catherine's inheritance had financed much of his business. Then Michael found harbor records from the night Catherine died. A sailor aboard a nearby ship reported hearing a woman scream followed by a splash. He later saw a man in a dark coat walking calmly away from the dock. The witness never testified publicly because he was a black sailor living in Charleston in 1901. Accusing a wealthy white businessman could have cost him his life. Michael later met the sailor's grandson, Robert Mitchell, who revealed the horrifying truth passed down through his family for generations. "My grandfather saw Thomas Brennan push her into the harbor," Robert said quietly. "He saw him hold her underwater until she stopped fighting." Michael's investigation then turned toward Elellena's disappearance. Inside old church journals, he discovered an entry from June 18, 1901. A frightened young woman had appeared at a church seeking sanctuary, claiming her sister had been murdered by her husband. The priest sheltered her overnight, but by morning she had vanished. Bloodstains were found on the bed sheets, and a torn piece of dress fabric remained caught in the window latch. Michael became convinced that Elellanena had escaped briefly, but later returned home, possibly for money or belongings. That was when Thomas Brennan found her. Then Michael discovered something terrifying in property records. Only weeks after Catherine's death and Elellena's disappearance, Thomas Brennan ordered major basement renovations at his house on Church Street. Michael looked at Margaret with horror. He buried her there. The current homeowners agreed to allow ground-penetrating radar scans inside the basement. The results shocked everyone. Beneath the old floor was a human-shaped grave. Police began a full excavation. 3 days later, they uncovered the skeleton of a young woman curled in a fetal position beneath the foundation. The forensic team confirmed she had died from a massive blow to the back of the skull. The body they found a locket containing tiny photographs of the two sisters, and folded carefully inside a pocket, a train ticket to Atlanta dated June 19, 1901. Elellanena had almost escaped. The story exploded across national news in early 2019. The photograph of Catherine hiding the pistol became a powerful symbol of domestic violence and forgotten victims. Further investigation revealed that Thomas Brennan had remarried twice after fleeing Charleston. Both later wives also died under suspicious circumstances. He had spent his entire life murdering women and escaping punishment. In February 2019, Catherine and Elellanena were finally buried together in Magnolia Cemetery. Hundreds attended the ceremony. Their new grave marker read, Catherine Fletcher Brennan, 1875 to 1901. Elellanena Fletcher, 1878 to 1901. Sisters murdered but not forgotten. As Michael stood near the graves, he thought again about the photograph, about Catherine's terrified eyes, about the tiny pistol hidden beneath her hand. She knew no one would believe her. She knew society would protect her husband, yet she still tried to leave evidence behind. And somehow, 117 years later, it worked. That photograph had finally told the truth. The sisters' voices had survived. Their story had survived. And Thomas Brennan's name would forever be remembered, not as a respected businessman, but as a murderer exposed by a hidden gun in an old forgotten photograph.